Welcome to Talking in Stations. I'm Noraus. This news day is for December 23rd, 2020. It's been a heck of a year, and we're finishing it up. So yesterday, actually today and yesterday, the news was kind of big. So let's go have a look at it. By the way, we'll have Noraus on the show. He's the leader of Fraternity and Winter Coalition in just a few minutes. He's a little bit busy right now, but when he arrives, we'll have a talk with him about one of the news stories that involves him. So today we'll talk about the Keepstar that went down in Delve. That was NOL, TAC M9. I think that's a historical system for Delve in general. And there was a Keepstar in it, but there is no more. And it was the first Keepstar taken down by force. Also today, Fraternity lost a Leviathan. That was Noraus, I believe. And we'll find out how and why. Also, interestingly, in wormhole space, there's a Russian guy, we think, who is multi-boxing and reinforcing the heck out of everything in high-class wormholes. So we'll have a little look at that. And also, there are some events happening because it is the holiday season, and this is a Christmas event called the Griffin Ball, which is supposed to be something, I think, based off Harry Potter, if I'm not mistaken, and it is with griffins. So we'll have a look at that a little bit later. All right, the big news is the Keepstar went down in NOL. For those that don't know or are not familiar, I'll show you on the .lan that it sits in the middle of Delve. NOL is here. I'll mark it up so that you can see it a bit better, and the significance of it. It used to be that you had really great jump range to everything. So if I were to do a jump range for, let's just say, super capitals, although this was at a time when mostly it was a capital jump rather than a super capital jump, you can see you can control a lot of space from that one system. And if I were to actually do capital fleets, because, you know, you would want to drop dreads on anybody that was in your systems or anything. Here's capital jumps. Now I'm showing you this, but it has changed quite a bit. You see you cover more territory because super capitals don't have the same range that capitals have. And that was true, I believe, a long time ago when carriers could really jump. That's why they were called suitcases, because nullsec player would finally get into a carrier and be able to put all their ships in there that they needed, logistics ships, battleships, whatever. And in doing so, they could use the carrier as a suitcase because it could jump 9 light years, I think, with skills instead of 7 or whatever it was. I forget what the light jump ranges were, but carriers were the furthest jumps, farther than anything else, I believe. And so NOL served a very useful position militarily because you could jump to a lot of things and defend a lot of Delve from it. So that's why NOL is historic. It's also, I think, where Band of Brothers would headquarter. It was a capital city a long time ago. You can see you can control entrances to a region. Let's zoom out of that. It's the green dot there. So that's NOL. It also is a system that was one of the NPC stations that CCP put into the game. I believe they put in over 100 or close to 100. And those were very special because they were not player made. They were just created as strongholds. And so NOL was the NPC station that you could conquer and therefore install yourself and your ships in the area as a permanent resident. And that's how SOV worked long time ago. And even, it's funny enough, Hilmar was talking a couple of days ago on the fireside chat from CCP, and he said, what's natural in EVE is to be able to hold a system if you can control the gate. What's not natural is asset safety and the SOV wanding and all the mechanics that allow small groups of people to participate in SOV as well. And Eve started as a place where you controlled space you could control militarily because you were there with enough firepower to control it. And you could fight over NPC stations at the time, and they would never be destroyed. They would just switch hands. So if you defeated the station, then you got to park in it, and whoever was in it couldn't park in it. So as soon as they undocked, they couldn't park again. And so it was... NOL was very, very important because it was an NPC. It was an NPC, or basically a station out there in the middle of nowhere, until players started building up other stations that matched it. So NOL lost a little importance then. Okay, fast forward to 2020 now. The game is 18 years old or 17 years old. And you have the Imperium moves into this area, especially Goon Swarms. We'll call it Goon Swarm. That's the Condi guys here. And they populate the whole area, and they put key Keepstars in different areas strategically. So they are chained together, so you can jump from one Keepstar to the other, and you can have mobility that's relatively safe for your arsenal, these capital, super capital ships. So they put, I think, many, many Keepstars down. Some of them have already been destroyed in peripheral areas like Quarius and Period Basis and even Fountain. So now in Delve, there has not, up until now, been a Keepstar that has been forced into destruction. You've had one that was stolen in transit as it was taken down and tried to move out. That was, I believe, in right here in KTAC 6. And then a few days later, right next to it in WTAC K, you had the Imperium successfully unanchor a Keepstar and try to transit it out with a freighter, but the freighter was intercepted and destroyed. And both of those are Keepstars that were in Delve, but they were not forcibly taken down. Okay, fast forward to yesterday, and what you saw right after this show, about 24 hours ago, was a giant armada. You remember we sent you over to Ron USMC so you could watch it live. And they took down that Keepstar, and there was no defense for it. A defense fleet could not overcome the amount of firepower that was unleashed on it by Pappy. So the Imperium stood down. We look at local chat, there's over 2,000 people in system. 250 of those characters were in Titans. And I believe 143 were in supercarriers. And there were like 7 Vendettas, which are faction Nixes. Very expensive ships these days. They're especially expensive, the Serpentis line of faction ships, because they're not necessarily a rare loot drop, which usually spikes the price, right? Because there's only so few of them out there that the price is high because they're so rare, but they take about the same amount of minerals to build. Serpentis is different, and it's the only faction that's different. It takes like 4 times the actual materials to build that faction. So it means even if you have a blueprint, it's going to cost you about 4 or 5 times the normal price of a Nix just to create it with minerals. And as you know, scarcity has made all minerals go up in value, some more than others, but the overall index is skyrocketed in November. Actually, in October, it's kind of frozen in November, which means the Vendetta is worth a lot of money right now. Okay, so the Keepstar went down without much of a fight. There were some people in system that were not defending it as a fleet, but there were some people maybe trying to pick off, or maybe third partying or something, I don't know. But there wasn't anything scrambled in a particular way. Ooh, thanks for the rating party there, large Quaif 0. So DJ Retirement Fund, the Goonswarm Federation Keepstar in NOL, NOL TAC M9, that's in Delve region, was destroyed yesterday by the combination of Pappy forces, which primarily in this case was NC Dot, since they were the one that reinforced it through shield and then through armor. But everybody showed up for this one. So you had Test there, you had Horde there, you had everyone else that's part of this ongoing war. Hey guys, welcome to Talking in Stations. We're doing news for the day. All right, In other news, let's see if we have. We still don't have our guests, so I will skip this. But Fraternity, namely Noraus, lost a Titan, actually Leviathan. We'll come back when he arrives. We're going to have him on the show. We'll talk to him about this loss and what was going on. And I think it's kind of funny. When he gets here, you'll know too. Okay, skipping to other news. I believe this is. Actually, let's go to the wormhole news. I didn't write down the other news, so. No, it's right here. Initiative and Goonswarm have roaming gangs that have been hunting efficiently and catching multiple XIX and Rorquals. So resulting in 2 fights, and they've totaled their destruction over 100 billion in the last 2 days, which is a lot of killing. Let's have a look at those kills here. So this is in Deterid, FMH TAC OV. This is Fire Coalition. You can tell by Legion of XX Death there. That's the main group in that block. But you also have Razor Alliance. Those are both notable names. And looks like it's Bomber Fleet from Initiative, which is typical for the Initiative. They do roam around in many, many, many bombers. It's usually a surprise attacks. These are hundreds. Let's see if it tells us how many bombers there were. It will. I just can't find it. Here it is, somewhere here. Stealth bomber. Oh, I guess this only records how many were lost, but that doesn't make any sense because I saw a lot of bombers in red. You see this red? That's them being destroyed, and that's definitely more than 2. So I don't know what that summary is about. So the Initiative taking on some people. Okay, let me grab Noraus here. Hi, Noraus. How are you? Hey, Noraus. How are you?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How are you doing, man? All right. We were just talking about some success that Initiative was having with bombers, but as long as we have you here, I want to take advantage of your first person information here. So, did you lose a Leviathan?
Yesterday. For me, yesterday. Some of you still today.
So that was yesterday for you?
We had a fleet. It was for Jakara's app in the same system. And the fleet concludes Arthurton. So I jumped in, bridged my fleets back home. I forgot it and went to bed.
So you went to bed, you bridged your fleets, and then you went to bed?
You just can't resist the bed at that moment. Just sleep.
Sometimes it calls for you after a long fleet. So when you you bridged your guys, they got home, okay. And how many accounts are you working with that you would forget a Leviathan on the field?
This is my first Leviathan, so it could be the first time, maybe.
Yeah, but how many accounts are you running at the same time?
2, 3, no more than 4. Not much.
So
the rest are in station, pretty safe.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to figure out why you would forget an account that's open, unless you're using like 5 or 6 accounts and you just lose track of them, or.
Yeah, there was multi-boxing like in the account, but it sleep there.
Yeah. Okay, so you were multi-boxing 8 accounts, and you got some of them put away, but then you just went to sleep because you were tired after a long fleet. And then the Leviathan sat out in space. Yeah.
After a few Olympics, I've been doing EU time zone fleets recently,
Mm.
and yeah, so I tend to sleep in the China time zone. That's when I know not much content or anything going on. It's
Yeah.
unusual that we have a timer at this time, just around 10. So usually I was sleeping.
Yeah. Well, this is not the first Titan that you have lost. I wonder how important Titans are to you. I do believe
Well,
in you've lost a Leviathan before, right? Or
mm, I'm pretty sure this is my first life. I think could be wrong, but I've lost other titans for sure. Yeah,
oh,
they are quite expensive. They're growing, so I tend not to lose them.
yeah. So they're growing in value, and you don't want to lose them anymore. But they at a time they were a lot less valuable than they are now.
Oh yeah, I remember titans like 38, 40, and you just don't care about that at all.
Yeah, that's like T1 prices. 38, 40 billion is not a lot to you, I'm sure.
That's the prime Delve days. I used to mine with guns in Delve with A oracles. It was a pretty good time.
Did they know you were there, or were you mining with them with their permission?
They know later. I didn't tell them. Yeah.
Did they figure out that you were mining there, or?
Eventually they did, because I was building drafts in Delph. I mine with those locals and ship them into NPC station, building drafts, battleships.
So even though you were building up Winter Coalition and Fraternity, you're still taking advantage of the Delve area. I think you're not the only one. A lot of people were doing that.
Oh yeah, like you have to blend in and learn how to build an empire when you try to do it yourself. So I take guns as a pretty prime example that I could learn from. I think I joined them in 2015,
2015. Oh, okay.
15, 17, could be there. Pretty early when they just introduced Robo.
Yeah, that would have been about 2016. So
Ah, right, yeah.
yeah, they actually moved to Delve in 2015, about the summer. But the Rorqual wasn't ready yet. That came a little bit later. But about, I think it was maybe 2016. I should take a look. That's when the Rorqual came out.
It's 2016 November.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, I thought it was about a year after they got there, and then they started building the the massive amount of mining and stuff. But you were a student of that because you were there, you were doing it.
Yeah, Delve Miracle.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So, can I ask you, and you don't have to answer because it's like a personal question, but do you play normally? What time zone do you play in? Is it actually, I'll call it Chinese time zone, or?
Okay. Well, recently I only play when it's needed. So when there's important timers, when some FCs couldn't attend, I'll be their replacement. And usually it will be US or EU time zone because there's not much things to do in AU time zone anymore. Ever since we uh, get the Keepstar zone and there's no offensive timers, you don't have to anchor Keepstar in AU time zone anymore. I think that's about a theme to the whole world. Like AU time zone anchor stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you anchor stuff. That's your job.
So that's
Once
your,
it's done,
yeah.
yeah,
So that's your role, is to make sure stuff gets anchored deep in the night for the rest of the world.
right. But it's not necessary nowadays. The Pappy ally fleet has a pretty advantage in EU time zone and US if they commit, right? If they organize properly. So Ford and Tast and Z just tend to anchor on their own.
Yeah, you seem to put down that whole Keepstar train that went from Catch all the way to Aquarius. You seem to be putting down a lot of Keepstars, at least 3 that I could count. Is that,
Yeah, it's
what,
5 or 6.
5 or 6?
It's,
Okay.
I transfer them back to the Horde and NC dots because they were fighting in Fenton, right? They were strangling with initiative, and Tess was doing things in para bases. So they're kind of occupied, and there will be timer in their time zone. It'll be convenient for me just do this for them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, I thought that was.
it's not a high risk.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody that can really challenge Winter Coalition.
Like, I won't take a lot of credits for it. It's just not high risk when you're far away from Delve.
Yeah. So okay,
Yeah,
so
things
you
just tend to be very calm.
right at that hour, right? And but normally you play in kind of close to downtime, normally, like without a war. Is that right? I don't know if you heard the question, Noraus. Okay, I think we're having connection problems. Noraus, are you still there? Yeah, he's writing me, so he might have. We kind of had connection. That's why I was repeating stuff. Yeah, he's getting really low pings. Okay, that happens with Discord. It's too bad. He's such an interesting guy. So we'll see if we can still have him. All right. Well, speak up, Noraus, when you get a chance. I'll go ahead and go on. There's a lot of questions I have for you too. But instead of talking to it like a sleeping cat, where you don't know if he's paying attention to you or not, I'm going to go ahead and move ahead. And when he talks again, I'll come back to him. All right.
How's it about now?
Oh, there you are. Sleeping cat is awake. Really good. I can hear you.
Cool.
But normally you play around downtime. Like if there's no war, that's when winter is active.
Right. We mostly China time zone, which is right after downtime.
Now, I saw a picture a long time ago, and it was fraternity meeting, and it was like 20 guys around a table, and it looked like a boardroom, and you guys had a big screen on because a presentation was going or something.
Oh, you mean in real life meeting? Yeah, it's a player meetup. It's not exactly a meeting.
Okay, so
it was right after the dictatorial war, and we were lost. So I took a break, and we met up in a beautiful city in China.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it was a player meetup, but it looked like a boardroom, which was kind of neat.
They specifically set it up, just trying to get the pictures done.
Oh, really? So it was.
Yeah, it's a meme. It's a
meme. Okay, good. Because I had also heard that the way that you play Eve is different from the way other people play Eve. Like you're much more organized, almost more corporate.
Okay, I'd love to hear that, but sure. Where did you hear this from? I've never thought about like me being more organized. I just think I should put things in order. Otherwise, it triggers my OCD.
Yeah. All right. You know, as well as I do, Wind Spirits, and he was.
Oh,
yes, Wind Spirits was the founder of Fraternity, but you inherited it. He gave it to you to take care of it, and he left for a while, and he came back recently and joined, of all places, the Imperium. He joined Goonswarm. Did you notice that?
Right. Of course. He called me a few days before we came back and asking if there's anything going on in the game, and I told him, well, there's another World War B. Would you like to join? And he was like, it could be too much, blobbing, boring stuff. He doesn't like to be the winners. He loves to making friends in the deep trench, and I think that works. Yeah, he joined the Ranger Regiment. No, he joined the Guns, but was leading Ranger Regiment fleet because he's stuck in China as well.
Oh, okay.
Because of the coronavirus. Yeah.
Yeah. So he wanted to fight for the underdog. He didn't want to be part of an overwhelming winning group.
And, yeah, always.
Yeah. So, and it's a good time to make friends with people in the trenches when their back is against the wall. That's when you want to help somebody.
Exactly what he said. Yeah.
Well, I know that too. Like I say like I know that too, like it's wisdom, but I know that because I have an example in my life too, where I was doing interviews with some executives in Hollywood. My brother knew them and he introduced me. And one of the executives was the CMO of 20th Century Fox. And so I got to talk to him for about a half hour, which was a long time. And he asked me, because I was working at a small studio, he's like, "How is this this executive?" And I was like, "Oh, I think he actually just left. He was pushed out. It was a TV executive." And he goes, "Oh, I'll have to call him." And it struck me because I thought, "Oh, why did you ask about this executive? And why do you need to call him now that he's no longer important?" Now, I don't know how I asked that question, but that's kind of what I asked. And he said, "Oh, no, that's exactly when you reach out to people. When they're in transition, when they're down on their luck, or when they're in trouble."
I see.
Yeah. So I thought that was very interesting, and it's been a lifelong lesson. Like, you don't help somebody that is winning. They don't need your help, and it won't be appreciated. Yeah. On the other hand, right?
I guess, well, you're right. And I guess your friends takes pretty much advantage of that. But I do believe when and Elo, they both joined Ginswarm shortly after the war. I believe they do having a great time in Gins and probably made some friends out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. The okay, another part of you. So you're a very interesting Eve player, and I wish we had a really good connection to talk. We've met, you and I. We met in Las Vegas.
2018.
Yeah, short.
So,
yeah. By the way, I can vouch. He's very handsome for all the Eve players that care about that thing. But
okay, thank you.
But you were there, and it was so funny because you and actually Wind Spirits at the time were talking to Elo and Headliner, and kind of like we were having meetings, which I thought was really interesting. I walked away to give you guys privacy. But I thought that was pretty cool. And again, you're a very interesting player in EVE Online because you've been a leader. You've been a very active leader. And you guys, as Fraternity, had really taken over the top spot in NPC ratting. And then comes all these changes from the dynamic bounty system and the encounter surveillance system, the ESS. How has that affected you?
That has been quite effective. Right. There was like the ore change that is affecting to locals, and there's the super EHB change, loss of alliance, super riding, and the umbrella ever since. But FRT survived both until the DBS and ESS. I think that's a quite good hit. It's a long due change, like I said before, but it does impact my members a lot. About the active number, like I do appreciate CCP to reverse the drone aggression changes. Otherwise, it could be worse. But we do see it's understandable when you take something away and people just don't like to adapt and change. Just don't want to get out the comfort zone. But I guess we will have to, and I feel like OAS or the deep nullsec, it's not beneficial for weak alliances anymore because you don't keep everybody in the same umbrella within one region and keep your population pressures. It doesn't work anymore. So you have to spread out, and you will want to access different parts of the regions, different kind of resources. There's only a few places that allows you to do that in the game. So yeah, we're considering moving next, eventually at least.
Yeah, so I heard a rumor that you guys, of course, you took, how big was the hit that you took? At one point you said it was like a 50% drop in income. You're still clearly way above everybody else. So yeah, 50%?
About 300 bill incomes per month. That's only for the alliance. It's like after tax, so it could be worse for the line members. And the active number has dropped. The fleet numbers, I think 30%.
Yeah. 30% is about the same as Goon Swarm and Test and Horde dropped during Blackout. It was about 30% of their membership.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't keep a track on that. But blackout, when blackout happened, it was AFK, and that was still in the middle of the war. So I didn't check that, but I guess it could be the same effect. Yeah.
Yeah. So
People just don't like to log in and here's the Cyberpunk.
yeah, if they can't make as much as they were making, it just feels like a big hit. But you said that you dropped maybe 300 billion, and that's just for the fraternity.
That's only effort because we don't test improvements, and we don't have their ESI. That's the only resource, the reliable way we can track them over times.
Yeah. All right. And so I heard another rumor that, because that's a pretty significant drop, that you guys were moving to Vale. Is there any truth to that?
I'm moving, but we haven't decided a definite destination yet. So it could be very likely to be honestly. But it also could be somewhere near that part of the region.
Okay. Was that something private that was supposed to stay private? I didn't hear it from you. I heard it from someone else.
I know, like it's not something private. We openly announced that in the State of the Alliance, but we didn't tell members where we're going. So we currently have a stage appointing well already, and it keeps.
Yeah.
But obviously, one region will not hold all of us. Oasa, it's already on its limit to hold this many people, and Veil of Silence is a much smaller region. So either we go to Geminate or we go to Tribute, basically.
So Geminate or Tribute, but definitely towards the north.
Yeah.
Right. And that's part of that is how much room that you guys need, because you kind of have to spread out in order to.
We have to test. I was tracking down the DBS. I asked my IT to do a paper, like an active tracker, a map about the DBS, and from there we can decide how spread out we actually are, and try to figure out to reverse calculate on the system we need.
Were you able to calculate how spread out you were? Or
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And if you take the DBS, yeah. I love these talents people.
Yeah.
Very good. Well,
yeah. So talented people created a way for you to see how spread out your people were among a region. And that allows you to say, that's how much space we need. And so you can say, we can't move there, that's too small. We can't move there, that's too small. Here's areas where we can move, and you can make a better decision. Is that what happened?
Yeah, exactly. And we try to be careful with our neighbors and well, because it's not like, it's kind of scary when you see FRT come from 9 miles away. They might think like, okay, so this alliance might invade us someday. But it doesn't have to be like that way. So I try not to trigger every one of my neighbors.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But it's not a commitment. You're not saying you're moving to the north. It's just you're looking at possibilities now, or have you made a decision to move, but you don't know how long you're going to stay?
I'll say in 3-4 months, probably. We're going to have to partially move. We'll keep the dual stager concept like Tesla's. I know ProGod announced that they will have an eastern and western space.
Yeah.
Like yeah, we're probably gonna do the same.
Oh, okay.
And it's much more viable for us. Because the time zone, yeah.
I see.
Nobody's gonna we don't really care about the ADMs. Because who's gonna intel the stuff?
Right. So let me just review for the crowd, because your connection's a little bit hard for us to understand. But you don't really care about ADMs, and you think you're capable of living in the north and in Oasa where you're at now at the same time, like Test is doing, because they're going to have an eastern, I don't know, civilization and a western. They're going to take over Delve and Quirius and period basis, but they're going to try to hold the space that they have now in Catch and Impasse. And you might do the same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's very interesting. Now, one more question for you, and I really appreciate the time. This is something that fascinates me. When this war started, you put out and all leaders did. They put out a speech that said, what their objectives were. Yours wasn't live, and it was probably in Mandarin, so we didn't hear it. But I read it, a translation of it, and it was very interesting. You were saying, these are the days like the three kingdoms. The aftermath of this war will determine the future, and you wanted to be a part of that. Was it something like that?
Yeah, I remember that. I did say that, and it's true. I still believe it because when you see the map, you don't feel the same certainty like the pre-World War B.
Mm-hmm.
Pureblind and Declan, I know they're currently fighting over each other, but they don't make much progresses. And in the south, you probably have Legacy holding 16 regions, and they're not that stable because the Curse local and the Relic Losac local, they're all adding up. And you don't feel like the same cohesion the game used to do when in the Imperium and Legacy are close allies for 5 years. So a lot of things have changed, and probably won't go back to the way for at least a long time. You don't expect people just making new allies and friends in such short time notice. So it will stay like this for a while, I believe, and it's quite fascinating when you can watch over this from a far distance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of choose to third party without committing, without taking any risks. I took the war without any risks. What's my losing condition? Not really. The only thing that might be like the only thing I might lose is if I miss out, right? So yeah,
So the only thing you might lose is what? So you dropped out.
it's if I miss out the war.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
because you won't have a seat at the table, I guess, or I don't know.
FRT is too big. Like I always take FRT is too big to play Swiss. So you need to take one side one way or another. And I don't really like guns. I think that's every
Why?
problem you
Why?
can count down.
Why don't you like?
Because
Why don't you like
for
goons?
every, I do not really like guns because for every problem, when you trace up, and you always see guns at the end of it because of guns. We'll have to because guns will do A, B, or C, and then you can't have your plans to be realistic, to be actionable, right?
Yeah. So you're saying that every scenario that you map out strategically for your guys, when goons are on the board, it limits your choices.
French, exactly.
Yeah. Do you have any problem with the Imperium or Goon Swarm specifically, culturally, or as players, or any of that? Or is this just a strategic move? It's just business. It's not personal.
It's mostly business. Like I'm not a very old leader in the game. So, I I didn't like talk to Mithani uh, before the war at all. I believe we only talked once, and yeah, I think probably my English, the non-Chinese member corps might have their history with guns. It could be the way. Yeah, they might have something in person, but for me, it's mostly business.
Yeah. Because you don't have all that bad history like Vince Draken would with
Oh
Matani.
yeah,
You say, oh, yeah, because you recognize.
I was in the NCDOT when the glassing happened. Yeah, I was in the NCDOT in and out.
Yeah. Were they mad
Uh,
were they mad?
no, not really. They took that pretty well. But before that, I know they have a long history. BOB, you can all trace that back all the way.
Yeah.
So I wasn't part of that.
Right.
I didn't join until after BTEC.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, when we did have a show on the arrival or the growing numbers of the Chinese players, not just in Serenity, but they'd come to Tranquility, our server, and the excitement that was around the possibilities of what this meant. It was the birth of a whole new time zone, And you guys have really delivered in a big way. You've put yourself on the board. You've grown faster than any other group. You're not a long-time leader, but you're just as powerful, if not more powerful, than a lot of these guys that
No,
have been playing a long
definitely
time.
not more powerful. Please, I take the compliment, but thank you. But
You don't want a target on your
definitely more
back.
powerful.
Okay.
No, not really. But seriously, to be fair, we're not powerful as this older alliances. Not as much.
Well,
I think we do the Chinese time zone. They do deliver different possibilities, not always positive. Okay, but we're trying to.
mm,
And you can see the Koreans and Japanese are coming in. They both issue their own localization, the client. So which is a pretty good part. If you go to LoSec, that's I would say that's 30% of those people are now Korean.
really?
That's fascinating.
That
For
is fast. So 30% of LoSec is Korean?
maybe less than that, but definitely they're growing fast.
That's where they like to be, LoSec.
Uh, that probably because Siege Korean is the biggest Korean ethnic group, and they live in LoSec.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I recommend you to talk with their CEOs, interesting people.
I will. Yeah. And you said Japanese as well.
I think they launched this local Japanese client, I think 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's still, we're not sure how that would go.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't like this game. Maybe they'll just don't like this. They prefer the anime.
Yeah.
But it could be.
All right, a couple other things. One thing that Hilmar said was he was fascinated at the differences in cultures and how they accept EVE Online. And he said that the Eastern cultures, like Korea or Japan or China, they don't mind a complicated user interface. Has that been your experience?
For me personally, I like my UI tidy. Um, but I can't say that for everybody.
You like
It could
a
be.
tiny UI, you said.
Yeah, a tidy stuff.
Oh, tidy. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So it
but I'm not sure why he would make that comment. But
might be the people he
I do
ran into.
believe, yeah, probably. I believe he works a lot with the NetEase people. That's where the comments come from. But we never talked. Like we never talked privately. I think there are a lot more to deliver for the Eastern culture than just the UI stuff. We bring a totally different mentality.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, which is not appreciated by everybody, but it's something different. You have to accept. You have to adapt, and you have to consider. Well, there's something somewhat different from you. Think different from you. It might add vocabulary, so you have to plan out.
Yeah. All right. So you like a tidy interface. Maybe you're a little more Western oriented in that sense. One more thing from you before we let you go. What is your vision of Eve going into the future? What are some of the things you would like to see, or some of the things that you're going to concentrate on that are interest you into the future?
Hmm. I hope they probably. I wish they could put more effort in the Delve team. I know it's a small company. I know the resources is limited, but I do hope they could listen more to the players. Like some changes we've been asking for decades, and it's still the same way. And probably CCP, they know or not, probably. I don't know. But those are some valuable ideals that come from the players, and they should seriously consider them.
Right. So
Yeah.
more devs to develop the game
Mhm. And
more.
to the ship balance. Ship balance is something very critical. Like the block problem, the N+1 won't be as severe as from right now if the ship meta, balance that out. If like you already have the diminishing return on items on modules,
Mhm.
why wouldn't you have a diminishing return on numbers, on fleet numbers?
Yeah, that seems like where you should. That seems like where they should
So
fix it. But
yeah,
so
ship balance is something very critical.
so ship balance and N+1, they got to figure out a way to mitigate that to make it less important.
Instead of just adding new ships.
Yeah. All right, cool. And can you tell me what's happened with Miss Rabbit? She made a great entrance into the game. Very interesting.
Really?
Do you? No, not really.
I haven't heard about it recently.
Okay.
I think she went on to Serenity.
Serenity.
She has a she has a pretty good connection with the Serenity PIBCC, and
Right.
she was in AOM in Case Alliance, so they went to Serenity shortly after. I guess there's not much going on for AOM, you know, in this circuit. Yeah.
That's right. And it's not like you talk to her all the time, but you were on her show at one point, I think.
I try to forget that part. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I reminded you. Okay. Yeah.
I have to brace myself sometimes. It's okay.
Why do you have okay, you were never on Serenity. I don't know if everybody knows that, but you were not a Serenity player. Correct?
Right. I never played that. Why would you ask?
Well, my question is, why does Fraternity have a problem with PIBC on Tranquility? And that's AOM, right? AOM is PIBC on Tranquility. So AOM and you do not get along. But why is that if you don't have any resentment towards them from Serenity?
If I have to go, okay, I admit it's something personal, but it's only personal from me to another leader. If I have to go down to the details, that wouldn't be appropriate for your show because it's a lot of personal stuff, and real life politics stuff. So I would rather not to touch that. But it's honestly just between me and another AOM leader. I admit, like my LAN members, they probably have a problem attached from Serenity, but I did not.
I see.
So
they have their own issues with AOM.
It's different. Yeah, I might have taken advantage of that, but it's totally different.
Yeah, and you have your specific issues with somebody who leads AOM, and you said they're somewhat political in real life, and we can just leave it there. But that's very interesting, and that happens in EVE Online all the time.
All the time, really? Okay.
Yeah, it does.
I guess it's more sensitive because in our culture we take this a lot more serious. So it's hard to. You have to be careful not to cross the line. So I'd rather not to talk about that on a public show.
Yeah. Well, we can respect that. We won't try to get it out of you, but we do like understanding the whole people, not just the players on the game, but like the thinking that goes behind the character is important to try to figure out that's where a lot of interesting things happen. But you're not the only one. There have definitely been real life politics between Goonswarm, the Matani, and Pro God Legend. Really don't like each other. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with real life politics. They're on different sides of the politics. And one of the reasons Matani at one point said, you know why I wanted to kill Nully Segunda? And he said real life politics. And I don't know if that's true or not, but he said that's the reason that motivated him to try to kill Nully Segunda. And he's tried to do it a couple times. He even hired Pandemic Legion to actually kill them. And it worked. He killed them with Pandemic Legion's help.
I was Nully when we were evicted.
You were Nully?
He was my CEO program.
I didn't know that. I was in there too. Were you there during BTEC R?
Shortly after BTEC R, like the same day.
Okay. Well, we must have switched places because I left right before BTEC R, I think, and joined NC Dot. But I was living.
That's pretty much the same.
Yeah, it was the same. It was the same. It was like the big brother. But I was living in BTAC R when the battle happened. That was my home station. Nobody else was. It was a mining colony, and that's where I was doing all my mining and stuff. I even have an Orca that's still in BTAC R station.
Why there's a couple hundred Titans jumping to my system?
Yeah, that's what it was like. I was at work, and I was like, Titan fight? BTAC R? Oh my God, that's like right above my head. Yeah, that was interesting. All right, Noraus, so good to talk with you. I want to talk with you again. We'll get a better connection. Or at some point we'll meet up again sometime. But do
Hopefully
appreciate
next year. Yep.
Yeah, hopefully.
Thank you.
Do appreciate you coming by, taking some time to talk with us. And anytime you'd like to talk again, we'd like to do it. All right. Thanks.
Hey, later.
All right. That was Noraus. He just lost Leviathan because after a fleet, he took a nap, as he said earlier, and forgot that it was out there. It got tackled and destroyed. But when you're someone like Noraus, he takes it seriously, and he has access to yet another Titan, and he has lost Titans in the past. But this is a guy that uses these ships to actually play this game, as other leaders like a Vili would do, and other FC leaders will use Titans to do things often. So it's not surprising that he lost it, but the way he lost it was kind of funny. Yeah, probably already replaced it, says Thrawn. All right, let's go on to one other thing. We were talking about Initiative and Condi doing roaming gangs, and they've been hunting efficiently and catching multiple Fire Coalition. We were just looking at one battle report, and now we'll look at the other. Total, they have, and again, these are Initiative. Now, these are Goon Swarm bombers. So this is Initiative or the other battle report that we saw, and they had hundreds of bombers, it looked like. And so really, the Imperium is bombing the heck out of Fire Coalition. That's what these brawls are. So that makes a difference, right? These aren't head-to-head, battleship fights. These are bombers catching Fire Coalition, not catching fire, but catching Fire Coalition, and really putting a hurting on them. Over 100 billion in 2 days. Okay, and our last piece of news was kind of interesting, and I'm not familiar with this, so we'll have to investigate a little bit. But a Russian group, mostly a guy multi-boxing 10 different characters. Let me bring this up so you can read it with me. 10 different characters, has been creating timers all across high-class wormhole farms for content. He's been mostly feeding his fleets, but nonetheless indiscriminate about who he hits. Nobody really knows who he is or why he's doing it. He has another timer coming up tomorrow with Singularity Syndicate in their 5/5 Magnetar, highly coveted farm hole, tomorrow at noon. So tomorrow at noon, he's hitting Syndicate. And I don't know, I want to call this guy Zorro because nobody knows who he is and nobody knows why he's doing it. But he's hitting these guys that are well established, something of heavyweights, because he's indiscriminately hitting everybody. And here's a list of, MGLA, that's a Russian alliance, Unknown, Russian alliance, a Little Red Riding Hole, that's a funny name. I wish I didn't love it so much, but it's hilarious. Wormhole Society, US, Singularity Syndicate, US, Nameless Alliance, EU, Foxhole Enclave, EU. So he's been busy, this guy. Yeah, fittest. Let's see, the farm hole battle report. We'll bring that up. And yeah, so he's got. So here he is feeding. I think this is him here. He lost all his ships, but I don't know. Got to watch this guy. He's doing something interesting in wormhole space. Oh, those are Eoses. Those aren't even Myrmidons. That's command ships. I think actually they got a nice buff not long ago that brought them back into contention. They were not used very much before that. Okay, so that's what's going on. And one last thing before we go. This is a Griffin Ball. It is an event that you can partake. It's 1900 Eve time in T5Z. That's the middle of the battle zone, right? That is Pappy headquarters in Delve. One jump out from 1DQ. And so I'll just read this to you. I hereby announce the first Griffin Ball event. I got 300 Griffins with a T1 tractor beam and 150 Molluses. These are frigates. with damps, those dampeners, as handouts. So if you show up, you can use these. I suppose if you're allowed to dock, so it might be just for Pappy. Objective will be to drag a wreck. I got 300 drag a wreck from the kickoff over 50 kilometers to the enemy goal. So I think you have to drag a wreck across the finish line. That's kind of funny. With your tractor beam. Meanwhile, you get jammed by the opposing team, so you damp their jammers. Everyone jams and damps everyone. Chaos will ensue. Did I tell you already that only one person at a time is able to tractor beam a wreck? Okay, I can start to see why they said this is going to be something like, what did I say? Like Harry Potter. But you might want to check this out. I'll try to get more information on this for you guys in the link in the show notes on YouTube. But check it out. It is called the Griffin Ball, and it's happening in T5Z 1900 Eve time. I don't have a date here, and I don't see it, but I will put that into the notes as well, unfortunately. Oh, I'm sorry. There it is, the 24th. That is today or tomorrow, depending on where you are in the world. It's tomorrow for us in the US time zone, but 1900 tomorrow. That is roughly about 15 hours from now. Okay, and that's all the news we have today. Thanks again to Noraus for stopping by and hanging out with me and having a chat. Great guy. That's all we have time for today on Talking in Stations. I would like to remind you that if you want to join our daily newspaper in-game, that you can do that by subscribing to the mail list through your mail client in-game to TIS News, and that will get you on our list. We've sent out about 25 to 30 newspapers already, a couple extra editions, I might add, and it's a good way to just get reminded of news without having to go check the Metasphere to see what's going on. And also, it is Christmas time. I want to thank, or holiday time, depends on your culture and your religion, but it's a good time for family. I want to say have a great holiday. We'll be back after. I don't think we'll have a show tomorrow on the 24th or the 25th because I have family time and obligations. But it's also a good time to remind you that we do a lot of work here at TIS, not just me, but researchers. And if you can do anything to help us by supporting us, you can join our Patreon, or you can, I think there's PayPal options. You can also subscribe and do that kind of stuff. But I want to remind you that, to keep us motivated, we need to see growth and something that's working, and if you can't, that's okay. That's fine. Not everybody can donate. But if you want to, just help surface the material, you can give us, a review on wherever you hear these podcasts, or, talk to us on YouTube where we can reply to your chats and just help the community. And finally, if you want to hang out with us on Discord, I'll put that in there now, if you're not already there. And that's kind of where we hang out and, do community things and stuff like that. It's, you can just lurk, nobody's going to, pull you out and make you dance on the dance floor. Also, the newspaper is totally free. There's no donation required or anything like that. Although I did think it was funny when I put out the very first edition, somebody sent me 4.99 ISK. So somebody gave me a newspaper cost. And I thought that was hilarious. But don't do that anymore because I'm just getting a bunch of 4.99s now, and I just don't want all that paperwork on my ledger, But anyway, thank you guys very much. Really appreciate you guys watching this. We're going to go ahead and call it a night, and we'll see you after the holiday. And then this weekend, we will have a Talking in Stations to get you caught up on the entire news. That is a Sunday edition of Talking in Stations. That is the podcast. We'll get that all taken care of. Thanks, guys. Have a great holiday.